The wind was howling off Lake Erie, rattling my Cleveland apartment window as I stuffed the final Thanksgiving pie into a tin. It was November 12th, my 30th birthday, and I'd spent days prepping gifts for my family's holiday gathering, hand-stitched coasters for Mom, a custom leather journal for Dad, a mixtape vinyl for my sister Nora. The phone buzzed at 4:22 p.m., Mom's number. I answered, flour on my hands, expecting her usual chatter about the guest list. Instead, her voice was flat, like she was reading a memo. "Clara, we've decided you shouldn't come for Thanksgiving this year." A clatter in the background, Nora's laugh, sharp and careless. "No shade, Clara, but it's just cleaner without you. You get it." Dad's voice mumbled something, low and indistinct. Mom continued, "It's not personal, dear. We need a simpler holiday." Simpler? Like I was a complication, not a daughter. I gripped the counter, the pie tin denting under my fingers. "Why?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Silence. Then Mom said, "Let's talk after the new year," and hung up. I stood there, the phone still warm in my hand, the coasters half wrapped on the table. The journal's inscription, "For Dad, who taught me to write my story," mocked me. No tears came, just a hollow ache, like the air had been sucked out of the room. I slid the gifts into a closet next to the twine and tissue paper I wouldn't need. The question wasn't why they'd done it, but what they'd already decided about me long before that call. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, in a brick house with ivy climbing the walls and a porch that groaned under winter snow. Mom, Diane, ran a boutique bakery. Dad, Paul, was a high school history teacher. Nora, 3 years younger, was the spark. Blonde curls, quick wit, the kid who could talk her way out of detention with a grin. I was Clara, the steady one, who memorized poetry, organized the pantry, and sketched floor plans for fun. The imbalance crept in early. Nora's B in English got her ice cream. My A+ in calculus earned a "keep it up." When she crashed Dad's car, they laughed it off as youthful spirit. When I won a state art contest, Mom said, "That's sweet, Clara, but don't let it distract you." I left for Case Western at 18, majoring in architecture, paying my way with scholarships and barista shifts. Nora stayed, tried beauty school, then event planning, then nothing, living rent-free in their attic. I never minded her spotlight. I loved her chaos. I drove home for her 21st birthday, planned her party, even paid for the cake when Mom forgot. I sent Dad books on the Civil War, helped Mom with her shop's taxes during COVID, stayed up nights editing Nora's resumes. But their holiday cards read, "Nora's finding her path." My name was a footnote. Clara's busy in Cleveland. Last summer, Nora called, sobbing over a failed startup. I wired her $2,000, no questions asked. She called me her anchor. Then, on that birthday call, she laughed and said, "Cleaner without you. Cleaner." Like I was clutter they'd finally cleared. A week later, I opened Instagram, not to stalk, but to distract. There it was, their Thanksgiving post. The same oak table, same cranberry centerpiece, same plaid napkins Mom used every year. But where I'd stood, next to Dad, was someone else. Leela Brent, our neighbor, a realtor with a megawatt smile and a lakefront mansion. She posed with Nora, their arms linked, Mom beaming beside them. The caption, "Thankful for our chosen family this season." More photos, Leela carving the turkey, Leela toasting with Dad, Leela hugging Nora by the fire. My spot wasn't just empty, it was filled, polished, and posted. I checked our family group chat. Gone. Not muted, deleted. Old photos on Mom's profile, my 25th birthday, Dad's 60th, still existed, but I wasn't tagged. like I'd been a ghost in my own memories. It wasn't rejection, it was erasure, surgical and silent. I called Aunt Tess, Dad's sister, who'd always loved my sketches. Her voice wavered. "Clara, honey, I thought you were traveling for work. That's what Diane said." I didn't argue. The truth was heavier than her excuse. I hung up, staring at the bare wall where our last family photo had hung. I'd taken it down days ago, instinctively, like my heart knew before my head. I didn't post, didn't text, didn't show up to talk. Friends invited me to their Thanksgivings. I declined with a smile. My coworker, Sam, offered to crash their dinner with me, just to make a scene. I laughed, but said, "No scene needed." I packed away the holiday decor, twinkle lights, a ceramic turkey I'd painted at 16, handling each piece like it might break. The gifts stayed in the closet, untouched. On Thanksgiving, I made a single slice of toast with cranberry jam, sat by my window, and watched snow dust the street. No music, no calls, just the radiator's hum and my own breathing. I didn't cry. That felt like defiance. I walked the lakefront later, boots crunching ice, watching families bundle past. The world was festive, but I was free, unmoored from their script. In early December, a letter arrived, not from Erie, but from Pittsburgh. Heavy cream envelope, embossed with Keene and Associates, attorneys at law. I hesitated, expecting a scam, but opened it. "Dear Miss Clara Vaughn, as executor of the estate of Margaret Vaughn, your presence is requested regarding inheritance matters. Grandma Maggie, my father's mother, who died, or so I thought, 6 years ago." I called the number, hands shaking. "Clara Vaughn," said a crisp voice, attorney Sarah Keene. "Margaret passed October 28th this year. I'm sorry you weren't informed." My knees buckled. "This year? My family said." I trailed off. Sarah's tone softened. "Come to Pittsburgh. There's more." 2 days later, I sat in her office, a glass-walled space overlooking the Allegheny. She handed me a death certificate, Margaret Vaughn, October 28th, 2025. An obituary from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette listed Dad, Mom, Nora, but not me. "Why wasn't I told?" I asked, voice cracking. Sarah slid a will across the desk. "Margaret wanted you contacted directly. She suspected your family might withhold." The will left me everything: her Squirrel Hill brownstone, her investment portfolio, her art collection, worth $4.2 million. Nora got $10,000, my parents a photo album. A USB drive held a video, dated 2023. Maggie appeared, frail but fierce, her gray eyes locked on the camera. "Clara, my star, if you're watching, I'm gone, and your family likely didn't tell you. You were my joy, your sketches, your heart, your quiet strength. Your parents leaned on me for Nora's ventures, took loans against my home without asking. I forgave, but I protected you. This is yours. Build with it." She smiled, and the screen faded. A second video showed bank records, loan agreements. Her voice steady. "They used my trust. Clara never did." I sat stunned. They hadn't just excluded me from Thanksgiving. They'd hidden her death, her funeral, her love. Sarah touched my arm. "Maggie wanted you to know she chose you." That was the knife, not the money, but the betrayal, layered and deliberate. They wanted to meet, to clear the air, at an eerie cafe, neutral ground. I agreed, not for closure, but to see their faces when they realized I wasn't erased. I arrived early, choosing a booth by the window, snow falling outside. Mom looked brittle, her scarf knotted tight. Dad's shoulders sagged, his glasses smudged. Nora was polished, new coat, diamond studs, her smirk fading when she saw my eyes. They started with pleasantries, then Mom pivoted. Clara, there's been confusion about Grandma's estate. She wasn't herself those last years. Nora chimed in. She always loved me best. That will's a mistake. Dad murmured, we could split it fairly, keep the house in the family. Fairly? Like I hadn't been cut from their lives? I leaned forward, voice low. Maggie was clear. She saw you borrow against her home, hide her death, erase me from her obituary. She chose me because I never took what wasn't mine. Mom flinched. Nora's jaw tightened. Dad stared at his coffee. Clara, Mom said, don't be cruel. I stood. Cruel was letting me think she'd been gone 6 years. Cruel was Thanksgiving without me. Nora snapped, you're not family if you do this. I met her eyes. You decided that when you laughed on my birthday. I walked out, their voices fading behind me. Texts followed. Dad's, we're still family. Mom's, you're hurting us. I deleted them. The anger was gone, replaced by clarity, like fog lifting from the lake. I sold Maggie's investments, kept the brownstone, and moved to Pittsburgh. The house smelled of her, lavender, old books, possibility. I turned her study into Vaughn Designs, my architecture firm. The first client was a community center, the second a women's shelter. I hired Sam as my project manager, his humor grounding me. At night, I'd sketch Maggie's favorite bridges, her voice in my head. Build, Clara. I hosted Thanksgiving this year, not in Erie, but in my brownstone. Sam brought cornbread, my neighbor Aisha brought curry. Friends filled the table with laughter and mismatched plates. No tree, just candles and jazz, the windows steaming with warmth. I set a photo on the mantel, me and Maggie sketching at her table, both smiling, no one else in the frame. Nora emailed, asking for her share. I forwarded it to Sarah. Mom sent a card. I left it unopened. Dad called, left no message. I didn't need their words. Vaughn Designs grew. 8 clients, then 15, then a city contract for a park. The brownstone's door bore a brass plaque, Clara Vaughn, architect. Maggie's gift wasn't just money. It was proof I'd always been enough. They thought they'd cropped me out, but I drew a new picture, one they'd never fit. My birthday wasn't a ban. It was my beginning. If you've been quietly replaced, drop one word below. Seen.